Thanks for having me this morning. My name's Tim Hall, and Sharon, my fiancée, and I would like to thank you for allowing us to spend some time with you. A little bit about myself. I've been in the emergency services now for 30 odd years. I spent 3 years as a police officer, 28 years with fire rescue as a serving firefighter, and the last 2 years I've been with the Rural Fire Service as an operations officer. So when it comes to sharing things about Jesus, I guess I've got a little bit of a different perspective than probably most. And there was a young bloke I knew, kind of looked like me, debonair, really handsome, modest as well. Didn't wear glasses, didn't have a little pot belly, and he went through Bible college and he was going to change the world. Okay? He was going to be the next Billy Graham. He was going to inspire everybody, and he was going to beat his congregation up till they went out and converted the world. Well, guess what? That little bloke now has kind of learned a bit more and settled down. And you know what? It's somewhat changed now, my perspective on life. And I guess I'm a little bit more pragmatic about things when it comes to preaching. Now, I'm guessing, Russell, you're going to recognise this sermon next. Okay, so the last sermon I preached went something like this. As a recruit instructor, it went, recruits, attention! Recruits, stand at ease, stand easy. Hope you all had a good weekend. Pump school last week all went well, did it? Yep, good, righto. This week, class 1, you're doing rescue. Class 2, you're with me doing breathing apparatus. Who's the class managers? Righto, you need your classes booted and spurred back here on the parade ground in 5 minutes. Any questions, queries or quandaries? Nope, right. Recruits, attention. To your duties, fall out. Recognise that one? Yep, righto. So that was my last sermon. It's probably not going to be like that today. So there are theologians. Theologians are our intellectual people. They're the ones who duck dive into the Bible and bring out all the hidden meanings, and they're the ones who then give it to the preachers, who then try and make it relevant for today's, and then you've got me. Okay, so I don't fall into any of those three categories. But this morning I'd like to explore with you how you'd like to be known. And I'm going to get you to fly the kite for me, thanks. Okay? So, who do you want to be known as Jervis Bay Baptist Church? Next slide. So, we're going to look at the church with glimph. Who knows what a church with glimph is? It's a Welsh term. No, okay, kidding. Righto. So, next slide. I looked up glimph, and AI told me it's a gaming term which means good luck, make fun. Next slide. Perhaps as stewards of God, it means that we have to look after our gold, our liquidity, and our means and our finances. Does that sound like a church that you want to go to? What about the next slide? How about our mindset? Greed, lust, malicious, falsehood. Now, I've been in churches for 40 years. I'm guessing you've all seen this in a church. Next slide. What's the one thing that most non-Christians say about Christians? You're a bunch of hypocrites. You gossip, you're liars, all you want's money, and you're fraudsters. Next slide. Well, I thought of this when I first thought about coming in and speak here, and Terry said, what are you going to speak on? I said, I'm going to talk about the good-looking males and females of Jervis Bay Baptist Church. And he went, what? I went, yeah, no, that's what I'm going to, yeah, no, good Australian term. Yeah, no, I'm going to speak on that. Next slide. How do you want to be known? How about the church of grace, love, mercy, and forgiveness? So I've been a Christian for 40 years. My dad was an Anglican minister. And I've been to Bible college in the late 80s, and I studied for my degree in about, 5 years ago, 6 years ago, got my degree in Bachelor of Theology. And in my time in churches and in home Bible studies and all that, I found there are actually 3 answers to every question that you get asked in church. First answer, God. God is. God is love. God is creator. God is holy. Second answer to any question you'll get asked in church, Jesus. Jesus said it. Jesus did it. Jesus saved me. There we go. The third answer, the Bible. It's in the Bible. Remember the old "thus saith the Lord"? Okay, so there are three answers you can give to any question you get asked in church. So when I asked you about which one of those slides you want to be, which one are you going to answer? The last one. Why? Because it's in the Bible. Okay. But the reality is there's probably aspects of all those first few slides in each and every one of us and each and every church in Australia. At various levels and various degrees, both individually and as a church. Why is that? Because we've got a wide variety of personalities and we've got a wide varieties of life experiences. Which one of those is the church that you want to go to? Which one of those churches or those slides do you think is the most appealing to the unchurched? So grace. Now, like I said, I'm guessing a few of you have been around churches for a while. So when I say to you, what does grace mean? Most of you go straight to the God revealed at Christ's expense. Have you heard that one before? G-R-A-C-E. Grace. God revealed at Christ's expense. Those of you with theological training probably went straight to the, oh yes, I know what that means. That's God's unmerited favour. So what is grace? Well, let me explain it this way. What do most of the world's religions say about a relationship with God? It's about you pleasing God, doing something, being something in order to get better crops. Maybe it's a way of explaining the world around you. But eventually, if you do enough right things by your God, you will get into Valhalla. You will get into Nirvana. You will get into heaven. Would that be a fair estimate of what most religions in the world would say? You have to do something in order to be saved. Well, in the Christian faith, it's the opposite. It's where God reaches out to us and takes humanity and brings it into a relationship with himself. Now, in the reading that we had from Romans, there's some little hints about how God and where we are in our relationship with God. Verse 6 said, whilst we were powerless. To put that into context for you, it's the kryptonite experience with Superman. You know what happens when Superman gets around kryptonite? Gone. Powerless. All his powers are gone. So whilst we were powerless, whilst we were ungodly, whoever thinks themselves as being ungodly? Verse 8, we were sinners. I'm not a sinner. Yeah, actually, according to the Bible, there you go. There's my answer. According to your Bible, you are. We are. I am. Verse 9, whilst we were under God's wrath. Talk to the average Aussie about where they stand with God. And what do they say? I'm not as bad as the bloke next door, or blokeette, whatever. You know, I don't rob banks. And he parks his car at the front of my place and the council said that's mine. Hey? So, we were under God's wrath. We were powerless. It was something we could not earn was salvation, eternity with God. So God bridged that gap with humanity by sending Jesus. God came in, took the punishment that we deserve. Let me ask you a question. Please do not say this out loud, okay? Have I got that on record? Do not say what comes into your head out loud. That's me. That's my job, okay? Isn't it, Sharon? Oftentimes we're driving along and I'll say something and I go look at her and go, I said that out loud, didn't I? And she goes, yes. Okay, so do not say this out loud. Who is the most gracious person in this church? No, do not say out loud. who is the most gracious person in this church? Now, if I come to you after the service and say today and say, who did you pick? I'm going to lay odds that 2 or 3 names are going to come up to the front. Okay, they will be the ones that are most, I'm going to use the word popular, but most common pick is really the word I'm looking for. Except if I go to those 2 or 3 people, because they will nominate somebody else. So I'm going to suggest that grace looks like a state of being, not a state of doing. Do you get what I mean by that? The person who is gracious, by the way, I'm not talking about what you say before dinner. I'm not talking about deportment. Okay? The person who bears grace or is gracious, it's a state of being. Sorry, I forgot to say, change the slide. Click again. And again. And again. Yeah, look at that, eh? When I went through Bible college, they said, we're going to teach you the latest technology. It's called an overhead projector. I spent hours doing this, by the way. So grace is probably more about empathy rather than sympathy. Empathy is that thing that inside you, you actually try and understand the other person. Grace is actually getting what we don't deserve. Because we're going to have to sort of bring that out, because we're going to be talking about grace, love and mercy, and we're going to talk about the difference between grace and mercy. So I run a police ministry. It's called Presence. And Presence stands for Police, Resilience and Care. Started it 7 years ago. And the basis of the whole ministry is this. We go into the police station at Lake Illawarra and we serve them breakfast. We do not proselytise. I've had a couple of people who've come along and helped me who've said, oh, look, you should come to church. Guess how many more times they come along? They don't. So the first time we're making these guys breakfast, and as an ex-police officer, I know where they're coming from. Guy walks up to me and he goes, why are you here? I said, we're here to serve you breakfast, to say thank you for what you do and to support you in your role as police officers. Bacon and egg. You know. Why are you really here? He's a good copper. He wants to know, because in his world, if you want something from a police officer, then you're nice to them. You see? We didn't want anything. We've never wanted anything. We've never charged them a cent. We're there to serve them breakfast and support them in their role. Transition, 7 years forward. A couple of things have happened recently. We were packing up and we heard this up the steps, boom, out on the veranda comes this police officer, and she says, oh, great, you're still here. We thought we were going to miss you. I said, no, but we haven't got much left. It's cold. She goes, no, it'll be fine. It'll be fine. Like, there's a transition. And so here's the other thing that happened 7 years in. The LAC, the Local Area Command, has asked the church to provide them with a chaplain. The police chaplain rang the senior minister of the church where I go, and he said, we've never had this happen before. We have tried and tried to give some LACs a chaplain, and they have resisted. This is the first time we've had an LAC not only request a chaplain, but request the church that provides the chaplain. 7 years, we have never shared Jesus with them. Guess what? We are now. So showing grace is a conscious choice, and it can make a significant difference in your relationships and in your well-being. Moving forward, love. I'm guessing, but I'm thinking we all know that there are 3 kinds of love in the Bible. Yep. We've all heard that sermon about philios, the brotherly love, the love you have between siblings, friendships, close emotional ties. Eros, which is lust, desire, physical love. And there's agape, or agape, depends on how you wish to pronounce it. It's the biblical love, the unconditional love that is often described as a commitment to the well-being of others, mirroring God's love for humanity. It is not primarily an emotion, but rather a choice. All right. By the way, this is the definition. You may note the change in my voice. Okay. A decision to act in ways that are beneficial to others, even when it is difficult or undeserved. So the head of the Bible college where I went was a guy called Barry McMurtry. Barry was the senior minister of Wollongong Church of Christ, and that church grew to over 1,000 members in the late 1980s. He said, and he used to say this frequently in our college, he knew the church had reached it as a church of unconditional love when during a prayer time they asked for anybody that needed prayer, and a young 16-year-old girl who had a small child put her hand up and said, "Could you please pray for me? I'm pregnant again and I've got to have a termination this week." Barry always saw that as the moment that church became the church of unconditional love, because that young girl felt comfortable enough to share some very deep and intimate secrets with the church, and she thought they could help. So let's transpose that. Let's contextualise that for you as a church. Sunday morning, summer's day. A lady walks in and she's about 30 years of age. Obviously not dressed for church, she's dressed for the beach. She's got 2 young children and possibly got the baby bump. What goes through your mind when you see that lady walk in and sit down? And where's she sit, by the way? Does she sit down the back? Probably not. She'll probably try and go for the back, but usually that's already taken, so she'll probably end up being down the front. Even over this side over here, where's she sitting? Down the front. So she's on display. How comfortable is that? And what goes through your head? Probably, doesn't she know about modesty? Yippee, a visitor! It's remarkable. How did you find us? Wow, she's young to be walking in here. Or, look at that, she's wearing Patagonia. Surfwear. Wonder where she got that from. Hope her kids aren't too noisy. Or maybe, g'day, welcome. So that's the question that's over to you. How do you respond to that young lady that walks in? Next slide. Mercy. So we want to talk about love and the church that anybody can come to, or unconditional love. So let's talk about mercy. So I said that grace is being given what we don't deserve. Mercy is not receiving or not getting what we deserve. Do you understand the difference? So what does mercy look like in a church? Well, it's taking pity on someone or sparing them from something. Let's put some context around this again for you so it sort of becomes a bit more relational. This is your interactive moment, okay? This one you can answer. Who likes being pulled over by a police officer after they've done an infringement? You get used to it. That was not an answer I expected. Righto. You and I have to talk. Okay, so nobody likes it. Okay, this is where you can put your hands up. Who likes it when the officer says something like, "I could issue a ticket, but I'm going to let you off with a warning"? One of the biggest criticism that churches face is that we're told that we're hypocrites, that we're zealots, we're after your money, and that you're the moral police. Now back to our guest, our young lady that came in. Do you think she needs to know that she needs to dress differently to come to church? Do you think that she needs to know that she needs to be on time? Or to come more often to get to know the church standards, maybe asked to control her kids? Do you think she needs all those things? I'm guessing that she probably knows that already. So mercy is finding out what her backstory is and finding out how you can help. Not challenging her to change to conform to where the church is at. Allowing her to feel loved and warmly welcomed, to feel the trust that you have her best interests at heart and you don't want anything from her. Has anybody heard of a guy called Rick Warren? Thank heavens. Don't have to explain who he is. He says the number one way that we can show mercy is to be patient with other people's quirks. How do you like that one? Okay, that means for Sharon and I, you know those little idiosyncrasies that your partner knows really well? Or, you know that person at church that you irritate? I know there's no one in this church that's like that, okay? Because I've been told everybody's perfect here. Nobody irritates somebody else with those little idiosyncrasies. I used to have a guy that every week at church used to tell me about the jobs that he was going for. He was unemployed. I'm going like, mate, inside, mate, just get a job. Like, seriously, I get it. You don't like bricklaying, but, you know, or you don't like being a labourer. You want this job, you want that. Just take a job. Outside, I'm going like, oh, wow, yeah. Hey, that's difficult, hey. I'm with you, brother. Next slide. Next slide. Okay, so forgiveness. Did we notice in the Old Testament reading the nature of God? About when it came to anger? Did anybody notice what it was? Slow to anger. The Bible goes on and says he is quick to forgive. From the Lord's Prayer, we know that we should forgive others, hey? Forgive us our sins, trespasses, as we forgive others who sin against us. So I'm betting that all of us know intellectually that we should forgive. But it's a far different thing in practice, isn't it? In my experience, there are three types of forgiveness. The first type is when you have to forgive others. And here's what I've learnt from my 61 years on the planet. Forgiving someone else is not a one-off. It can be, but when you're really hurt by another person's actions, and I think that at the heart of this, forgiveness is not that intellectual, it's about the emotional. It's not just, you know, I forgive you, all good, nothing to see here, move along, I'm over it, it's all okay now, situation normal. Is that how you find forgiveness? Because trust me, it's not how I find it. In the days and weeks and months of processing the emotion, I found the words of Jesus when he said, how often should I forgive my brother? And Jesus said, how many times? 70 times 7. That's not, in my experiences, that's not every time they commit the next offence. It's how many times you actually have to forgive them for the first offence. So, we know that, you know, from the Old Testament reading, what does God do with our sin? Takes it, throws it far as the east is from the west. That's not in a circle, by the way. That's in a straight line. And remembers them no more. So what does unforgiveness look like? Well, the Dalai Lama says unforgiveness is like drinking poison and hoping the other person dies. Forgiveness is about you. It's about not letting that other person have power over you, or that sin that maybe they've committed against you. Disempowering that sin giving it to God and allowing God to walk with you and bring justice in his time. Back on grace again, aren't we? With love, aren't we? If you ever get a chance, have a watch of that little skit there with Flo and Joan. It's called The Rest of My Life. Pretty funny. It tickled my sense of humour and it's pretty warped. So basically it's about a girl at a party who meets a guy, sees the guy, thinks he's cute, goes over to shake his hand, mumbles the words, "Nice to meet you," and she's then perplexed for years by the fact that she screwed up this meeting of the guy that she liked. Many years later, transition probably 20 years later, she meets him again at a 7-Eleven. Things do not go well. She wants the second chance and she goes to him and says, "Hi, I'm the girl you met at the party." And he goes, "Sorry, I don't remember you." "I'm the one who said, 'Nice to meet you.'" "Okay, I just want to shake your hand." So she has another go and things do not go well, as I said. So fast forward to her 80s and she's lived her whole life with this thing of reflecting for the rest of her life on things that this boy that she met, and she meets him in her 80s and goes over to him and says, "Hi," and he goes, "Hi." And then she goes through the story of how a couple of times that they met, and he goes, "I'm sorry, I don't remember you." Forgiving yourself, I find that really hard sometimes, don't you know, some of that stuff that we carry with us through life. And I'm hedging my bets that if we actually put it into perspective, probably not that important. We shouldn't be carrying unforgiveness in our lives. All of us, as emotional, intelligent beings, should look at how we interact with others and then try and get better at it. But God says, let it go. Forgive your sin for yourself. "I take your sin and throw it as far as the east is from the west, and I remember them no more." So why are you staying awake all night worrying about what you did 10 years ago when God's staying awake all night and he may as well have it and you may as well sleep? Make my point? Okay. The third kind of forgiveness is another difficult one. You've got to go and ask somebody else or seek forgiveness from somebody else. I find that one particularly, especially if somebody's done something to me and I do something back. Okay? Tit for tat. I've got a mentor and we were talking about an incident that happened in my life that really hurt me. It just about destroyed me. It really, really hurt. And I did something in retaliation. And he said, "You have to send that person a card seeking their forgiveness." And I went, "Yeah, that's not happening." And he goes, "No, you gotta. Irrespective of what they've done, you have to set things right for yourself from your side." So I did. Did not enjoy writing that card, but I sought forgiveness from the other person for what I had done. And I believe that's a really important biblical principle. Because as I said, if God is slow to anger and quick to forgive, it's probably a hint that we are quick to anger and slow to forgive. So we need to seek or ask forgiveness from others when we've done things wrong. Got a really good example of forgiveness and what it looks like. I was minister of Stanwell Tops Church of Christ. Does anybody know where that is? Christian Conference Centre up there. And it was 1992 and we used to get visitors in on the campsite all the time. So there's a lady and his husband came into church and had just attended, they were visitors. And I said, "Whereabouts you from?" And he said, "Picton." I went, "Oh, okay." I said, I know the area pretty well. And there had been a murder that year of a young girl, 10-year-old girl, Ebony Simpson. Was pretty horrific. And I said, oh, such a tragedy, you know. And he said, yes. And he said, and we've got rid of the family. I said, oh, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, we made sure that his wife and kids moved out of town as well. Contrast that with 15 years later. There was a school shooting at an Amish school. And I think from memory, around about 10, it was in 2007, and around about 10 children were shot dead by, this guy's last name was Roberts, I think, from memory. And he also injured about another 10 more before taking his own life. The Amish elders said, we will not bear anger against that man, and we'll forgive. And all the Amish community went to his wife's house and children and forgave and covered them. And one of the elders actually sat with the perpetrator's father, who cried on his shoulder for an hour, who could not understand how his son had committed this terrible crime. And the community not only forgave them, but they embraced them, insisted they didn't move away, helped them out financially. Amazing. I'm not sure I could have done it. But here's what this lady wrote. Marie Roberts wrote an open letter to her Amish neighbours, thanking them for their forgiveness, grace and mercy. She wrote, your love for our family has helped to provide the healing we so desperately need. Gifts you have given have touched our hearts in a way no words can describe. Your compassion has reached beyond our family, beyond our community, and is changing our world. And for this, we sincerely thank you. I could understand anger, like I described to you from the people at Picton. I could understand that. I guessing I'd probably be part of it. But the Amish set a standard, and we might find them a bit strange, but they set a standard in forgiveness as a community that's something to aspire to. Last slide. Ding. So Jervis Bay is known as a holiday destination. It's known for its white sands, amongst the whitest in the world. Depends on which website you look at. Some say it's the whitest sands in the world, some say it's second whitest. But that's what Jervis Bay is known for. What is Jervis Bay Baptist Church known for? When the community looks at this church, looks at us, looks at you, what do they see? Do they see a church of grace, love, mercy, and forgiveness as lived out in a community, not just theoretically, but in your everyday actions? And that's a question. I'm not here to beat you up over it. I'm actually here just to let you reflect on that and think about how you can put into practice some of those things. Let's pray. Lord, I thank you for these beautiful people who come on Sunday to see if they can find out a bit more about you. I pray, Lord, that as we've just shared this morning about grace, love, mercy and forgiveness, that you might enable us this week to find a way to do one of those things in a small way. And maybe we can build on that. We'd like this church to be one of unconditional love, a place that anybody can come to, a place of grace, love, mercy and forgiveness. In Jesus' name, amen.